Hey everyone, Rabbi Abram Goodstein here. I gave this sermon on February 19th. As many of y'all know, I love playing video games. It's how I unwind and recharge. And throughout my life as a gamer, I've come to learn that video games have their own special wisdom. And one of the greatest lessons I've learned from my time in gaming is the value of failing. Many video game levels are designed for a player to perform a series of near impossible feats that require a mastery of coordinated button and mashing or keyboard striking. And for you gamers out there, I'm referring to platformers and soul-like games. And so when a person begins to grasp what they will need to accomplish to get through a level, it can be a daunting experience. But gamers are great at failing. Players will not beat a new level on their first try. Each failure, which in this context means restarting the level from the beginning, is valuable information for a player. A gamer learns how to beat a level by playing it over and over again. This can mean anything from a second try to the 100th try or more. And here's the thing. The fun isn't just beating the level. The fun is attempting to gain a mastery over it, which often translates as beating it within a certain time or collecting everything within the level. Now, if you're wondering how I'm going to connect this to this week's Torah portion, here we go. In this week's portion called Truma, we are given specific instructions on how to build our Mishkan, also known as the tabernacle or the tent of meeting. The Mishkan is essentially the Torah's prototype to the temple, with the unique advantage that it's transportable. And each year, we dutifully read this passage, among others, which include all 54 Parshiyot. And each week, we finish the Parsha and continue to the next one. And every year, on Simchat Torah, we reset the Torah and start all over again. And we don't complain. In fact, we do it with much fanfare and celebration. And throughout my life, as a Torah reader, I've come to learn that the Torah has its own special wisdom. And one of the greatest lessons I have learned as a Torah reader is that each portion contains knowledge that I have yet to unlock. Each year that I read an individual portion, I'm only ever scratching the surface of the wisdom that portion has to offer. And while reading a Torah portion with the understanding that there will be much more to unpack in years to come may seem like a daunting process for a Torah reader, but I think it's beautiful. The act of attempting mastery over the Torah is so much more valuable than the mastery itself. And each year, we read the same portion, and each year we find more wisdom to uncover, we find new ways to apply it to our lives, and we discover new controversies to argue over. We are great about being excited on seeing each week's portion, even though we've seen it many times before. And us Torah readers learn so much by reading it over and over again. And the value isn't just reading it. The value is attempting to gain a mastery over it. So let's talk about something new I uncovered in this week's portion. This is a very visual portion. In previous years, I've shown you what's going on through various visual aids on building the Mishkan and the objects within it. And this year, I would like to tap into more of the spirituality of this portion from a line that I discovered that I didn't see in previous years. In Exodus 25, Adonai goes in great detail on building the menorah. Now, the menorah was the original Jewish symbol before the Star of David. God is clear. The menorah needs to have 6 branching candlesticks with a 7th longer one in the middle. God explains the material that will be used for the menorah and even illustrates how the light will shine from it. And Adonai does something that surprises me after this. After God's explanation, God then says, "Look what I have done. Its pattern can be seen on the mountain." So after this grand verbal explanation, God then shows Moses and the Israelites what God's talking about by placing a pattern of it on a mountain. Now, many scholars take this quite literally. Most notably is Rashi, who calls this pattern a depiction of the menorah made from fire. Admittedly, I struggle to imagine what Rashi means by this. Is he referring to lava coursing down the mountain in a menorah-like shape? Or is there literally a fire burning on the mountainside, making a shape in a perfect menorah? Next, scholars wonder, why explain it first when God just shows it? To our ancient Jewish scholars, it seems counterproductive, a waste of time. It seems like a contradiction. I don't think there is a contradiction here, but I'll get to that in a moment. Also, settling contradictions is like the favorite hobby of our ancient Jewish scholars. I have to believe they make up the contradictions just because they enjoy solving them so much. Anyways, scholars like Rashi believe that Moses could not fathom what Adonai was talking about, and he yearned greatly to understand. And apparently, he yearned so much that God felt that yearning and decided to ease Moses' yearning by providing a pattern on the mountain. So my take here is that good educators understand that students absorb information better through different formats. For example, some people are better auditory learners and some people are better visual learners. And research has shown that there are a lot more different kinds of learners than that, but I won't get into that right now. God here isn't contradicting God's self by explaining how to build the menorah twice. God is offering well-researched educational values by offering directions in two different formats. Thus, there is no contradiction. But I do love this idea of yearning to follow God. And for me, living in a beautiful place like Alaska instills a lot of yearning for me as well. Not necessarily yearning to understand something, but yearning over the majesty of the place that we live in. And so I want to offer my own commentary about God asking Moses to look to the mountain. What if there is no menorah on the mountain? What if God just meant look to the mountain, something we believe is beautiful, and with that sense of yearning over the beauty, use that to build the menorah? That this menorah should be so beautiful that it instills the same feeling we feel when we gaze upon a beautiful mountain. And this is my Jewish Alaska takeaway, since I believe that we are experts at looking at mountains. All right, thank you, and take care.